You are aware of this, very big scheme of rooftop solar power.
How many agroclimatic zones we have?
A lot of people say that Mahatma Gandhi's support to Khilafat movement and early brothers gave rise to communalism in India, politicization of Islam.
Supreme Court intervened into the affairs of BCCI, Board of Cricket Control.
What is the difference between Madhav Gadgil Committee report and Kasturi Rangam Committee report on Western Ghats?
Excuse me, sir. May I
Come.
Thank you.
Sit down, Mr. Sidharth.
Thank you, sir.
You come from Cochin?
Yes, sir.
Very good. In prehistorical times, what was Cochin famous for?
It was an ancient port, sir. It was an ancient port from the medieval times. And historically also there were some remains, like Neolithic remains have also been found from near Cochin.
Okay, and some religions in the country also started from there? The first religious missionaries also landed there?
Yes, sir. The St. Thomas was also famous for his work in Cochin in Kerala. The Jews were also active. The Arabs were also active in the region because of trade and the port there.
What is this concept of Zamorin in Cochin, and what role did they play in India's colonization?
Yes, sir. So Zamorin was a king of medieval time in Malabar region. So the Malabar region extended from Calicut till about Cochin. Though in some time it also included Cochin, but in some other times it did not include Cochin. So they were famous for their seafarer. The Marakyas, who were the naval commanders of Zamorin, and they were famous because of for encouraging the religious diversity, for encouraging inclusivity in the area. And the Portuguese also arrived in Zamorin's time.
They landed at which place?
They landed in Kozhikode, in a port near Kozhikode.
Which year was that?
1498, sir.
And which route did they follow?
They followed the Cape of Good Hope, if I am not wrong, sir.
I see. And how did they reach India?
So by the sea route.
By sea route. From where? From which side? Which is the direct route? From which side?
Sir, if I am not wrong, they took the route below Africa and reached India.
Who was the guide? Did he have a navigator on board?
Yes, sir. From what I remember, he had an Indian Gujarati merchant, Gujarati person who was also guide. I don't remember the names.
What about what has been the role of spices in the history or in the economics or commerce of your area, that region?
So spices were an important thing because it was in demand in Europe because it grew well in southern India and also in the southeastern nations, and it was in demand in Europe and it was part of the trade route. So it was in demand and it was grown there, so it became part of the trade relations, part of the people-to-people contacts. The different Europeans arrived in South India for trade, and then they established their colonies, their posts there. So it is part of the culture also.
What was the competitor to Kerala? Which were the countries or areas which were competing with Kerala?
So the Dutch had interest in the southeastern nations because they were
which countries or which islands?
Sir, I'm not able to.
Okay. Now you are also a student of architecture, huh?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me a little bit about this solar passive architecture? What is solar passive architecture?
Solar passive architecture.
Yes.
So I'm not able
You're
to.
not. What about green buildings?
Yes.
What is green building? Something
Yes,
to do with that similar. What is a green building?
So a green building is one which is environmentally sound, which reduces the carbon footprint and which is sound in the present and also in the future. So it reduces the emissions, it reduces the energy inputs that are required without compromising on the output required.
Okay. Now, can you bring it down to the operational level? If you want to reduce the emissions in a building.
Yes, sir.
How do you reduce emissions in a building?
So, in fact, emissions can be reduced at every level, from the level of conception of design. For example, if we have a courtyard in the design, it reduces the carbon footprint because the air conditioning requirement is reduced. Okay. And in the operational level, the kind of materials that are used. For example, if we use glass on the northern side, but if we, it is good. But if we use glass on the southern side in tropical regions, it increases the emissions output. And if we use vernacular materials like bamboo, it will reduce the carbon footprint.
Okay.
And,
You are aware of this, very big scheme of rooftop solar power.
yes, sir.
Has India given a commitment to the world that we will do so much of solar rooftop solar? Are you aware of anything?
Sir, in my understanding, our commitment is with regard to solar, total solar. I'm not sure if we have a particular commitment.
How much is the total solar commitment we had given?
So earlier we had 100 gigawatts, but now it has been extended to, I believe, renewable energy target is 475 gigawatts.
Now within this 100 gigawatts, you have any idea of the breakup between the two?
So if I can take a guess, I think it is 40-60.
Yeah, 40 is for
40 I think is for rooftop.
rooftop. Why rooftop is not doing well in India?
So one particular reason would be the standardization of the roof, because if we have flat roofs, it is easier to install, but because the existing infrastructure for solar panels that arrive is suitable for flat roofs. And secondly, another reason is that the storage is also an issue in solar panels.
No, but how do you expect all buildings to have flat roofs? I mean, if in Kerala they will
Yes,
not
sir.
have flat roofs, and even if it is flat, sizes will differ. So what is lacking in our legal framework as far as solar rooftop is concerned? Is there any problem with the legal framework?
So I think probably what can be done is the Bureau of the standards for construction standards can have best practices, wherein even if the roof is slanted, if roofs are adapted to different regions, it can adjust the solar panels. For example, I believe the infrastructure can be molded in such a way that the panels can be even on slanted roofs. I think we can have some apertures which can adjust solar panels. So I think it depends on the design, for which we can have some changes in the standards, local bylaws, or the.
And you said incline.
Yes, sir.
What is the ideal inclination for India? Angle of inclination?
So I think it differs according to the.
Approximately, plus minus. Average kitna hai?
So I'm not able to. For Kerala, it is about 30 to 45.
Okay. Now, have you heard of this concept of net metering?
Net metering. Yes, I have some ideas.
What does it say?
So I think it basically tries to ensure that the energy that is used for a particular purpose is not, which is meant for a particular purpose, is not used for any other purpose. For example, if we have metering for agriculture, we can ensure that the energy is not wasted, water or electricity.
No, that is not correct.
Okay, sorry, sir.
आप करेंगे start, sir?
There are 2-3 words, ecology, environment, atmosphere, ecosystem. Now, what is this? I mean, can you define me, about the environment, ecology, atmosphere, and ecosystem? And what is the difference in these 4 terms?
So in my limited understanding, I believe environment is the surrounding of an individual.
Okay.
The scale can be increased or decreased based on the point of reference. And ecology includes both the living environment. I believe basically includes mainly living organisms, while ecology includes both living and non-living. And the ecosystem basically focuses on the interaction between the different organisms, and the atmosphere refers to the blanket of air that is surrounding Earth and which supports life on Earth.
So this climate change, which is, you might be hearing a lot about climate change. How climate change will impact the entire country? You can start with the Himalayan area and go up to the coastal area, Kerala, etc., and the central part.
Yes, sir. So in my understanding, the climate change can have multiple effects, which are at present only speculative. I believe climate change through the form of global warming can increase the melting in the Himalayas. It can further also impact the amount of black carbon and such short-lived pollutants in the atmosphere, which can further have impacts on warming and melting of glaciers in the Himalayan region. It can also impact the biodiversity that is found in the Himalayan region. And if we come down to the central part of India, it can impact the kind of crops that are grown. So it can impact the water security, the food security, For example, there have been reports that certain studies that show that climate change and climate change induced global warming can increase the wheat output, whereas it can reduce the rice output. So there are differing studies. So it can possibly have multifold impacts on different crop yields. And if we come down to southern India, it can reduce the amount of precipitation that is there in Kerala, for example. And possibly there is also possibility that it can change the whole wind pattern, the precipitation pattern. So we can have a lot of confusion in the future times, and the existing pattern of settlement, the existing pattern of cropping patterns can also be different. So that might take some time to adjust. And if we go to the northeast, I believe even there the precipitation issue can be distorted. So I think it can have different impacts. It can have both positive and negative impacts, though due to the adjustment lag, it will have mostly negative impacts.
This coastal area, what will be the impact?
Yes, sir. With regard to the coastal area, it can increase wind erosion. So it can have, it can also result in submergence of various areas. For example, in Kerala, there are certain parts of Alapi district in Kerala which are already facing the threat of submergence. And it can also impact, it can also bring in invasive alien species. Already there is the African snail in Kerala, for example, and it can also affect the biodiversity in that way. So there is a lot of negative.
You have mentioned biodiversity.
Yes.
I mean, people say that India is having few hot spots of biodiversity.
Yes, sir.
Which are the hot spots of biodiversity in India?
Sir, I believe there are 3 hotspots. One is the Western Ghats. Secondly, there is the the Eastern Himalayas, and then the Western Himalayas also. But according to some estimates, there are only Eastern Himalayas and Western Ghats.
Okay. And how many agroclimatic zones we have?
So if I can take a guess, I think it's 19. I'm not. I think it is 19.
You can read.
20. Okay.
And which agroclimatic zone is Kerala?
So I'm not able to recall.
Okay. How many type of forests we have in the country?
So I don't remember the exact number. We have.
Which one is dominant?
We have
Which
deciduous
type of-
forests.
Which forest type is dominant in the country?
So deciduous forests are in dominant.
So what is the characteristic feature of deciduous forest?
We have periodic falling of leaves, so you have seasons in deciduous forests. Evergreen forests normally have they do not have leaves falling, so they have.
So are you still serving somewhere or?
So presently in 2020 attempt, I got into Indian Post and Telecom Accounts and Finance Services. Now I have just entered training last week.
I see.
Yes.
Okay. Sir.
Siddharth,
Yes, sir.
to Kerala, some admiral came from China also
Okay.
at some point. Any idea? Admiral Zheng He,
Yes, sir.
you know something about him? When did he come? What happened?
So I'm not able to
All right, okay.
recall.
You are from Malappuram. Tell us something about the Mopla revolt.
Yes, sir. So, in my understanding, the Mopla revolt took place in 1920s. Actually, it was a series of revolts. There were some revolts that took place some years back, and there were some revolts that took place after 1920s also. There are various versions to the Mopla revolt, the causes and the consequences. Some of the possible reasons could be one, that the agrarian distress, which was driven by both British revenue colonial policies and also because of the oppression by landlords in the vicinity. And secondly, another possible reason could be that it was some communal sentiments were also fanned by some local elements.
Why were communal sentiments fanned at that particular juncture of time?
So
What contributed to that?
So I think one of the possible reasons could be that this was also a time in history where the 1920 Treaty of Sevres, and we had the
There was a movement.
Yes, sir.
What was the name of that movement?
Khilafat movement. Khilafat
And who
movement.
were the main Muslim leaders for that?
So Muhammad Ali and there were 2 Ali brothers.
A lot of people say that Mahatma Gandhi's support to Khilafat movement and Ali brothers gave rise to communalism in India and politicization of Islam. Your comment?
So I believe Gandhiji actually took a good call in supporting the Khilafat movement, because that was a time in history when we were trying to build a mass base. We were trying to add more members for the independence movement. So we were trying to expand our social base. And he believed, I believe that he had an understanding that there was some legitimate interest on the side of Muslims also, who were having certain issues
Is it
with.
like riding a tiger? Using religion for political objectives?
So I think it is a difficult issue, but I think given the circumstances.
Give your assessment of what happened in Afghanistan, the rise of Taliban.
So my assessment is that rise of political Islam, especially rise of radical political Islam, is a threat to democracies worldwide and peace of life everywhere. And the way in which USA retreated was also possibly one of the reasons why situation escalated.
So, what gave rise to Taliban and religious fundamentalism in Afghanistan?
So
how did it come about? Who helped? Who supported?
So I think the radicalism in Afghanistan was also a theater of the Cold War. We had players like USA and Russia playing a proxy war in Afghanistan, and then that led to the rise of Taliban, and then they were supported by both regimes in different altering.
Both regimes means?
Russia and USA.
Russia supported Taliban.
Russia was against, but then that gave rise to Taliban. Then
Who
USA.
were the main financiers and supporters of Taliban in the 80s?
So in my limited understanding, I believe it was the USA and
Saudi Arabia, etc. Okay. You are close to Sri Lanka. Tell us something about our relations with Sri Lanka.
Yes.
What is positive? What is negative? Things are not very good lately.
Yes, sir.
Why?
So I believe our relations with Sri Lanka are overall in a positive note. So on the positive side, we have many measures, like we have various trade agreements. We have a currency swap agreement that was.
But which are the major issues between India and Sri Lanka?
So one point of concern is the fishermen issue in the Pak Strait.
You think Sri Lankans are right?
So I think we have concerns on both sides. So on the Indian side, the issue.
But Indian fishermen are poaching in Sri Lankan waters.
So I think that is an issue. But then there is the issue of boundary demarcation, the information that the fishermen have, and the amount of fish stock that is depleted.
Any other issue?
Another issue is the rise of China and Sri Lanka also having to protect its own national interests. So
any other issue? Main you are not coming to.
We have the Tamil issue also. Yeah. We had at present we are.
Sri Lanka claims that India has always interfered in their domestic politics. How will you counter that argument?
So I think India as a state policy, we do not interfere in the internal matters of other states. However,
you really believe so? Ask any of our neighbors. Ask Nepal.
So I think, however, the essence of foreign policy is to protect our national interests. So we had a legitimate interest when the crisis in Sri Lanka was happening, and we had to interfere in whatever means was available. But I think we still did.
In your view, the killers of Rajiv Gandhi, should they be pardoned? There is a lot of politics going on that. Where do you stand? If you are Home Secretary to the Government of India, the mercy petition will come to you, and you have to advise the Prime Minister. What will you say?
So my personal view is that I do not support death sentence. So I believe we should believe in reformatory justice. And if the conduct of the people concerned are positive, probably we should consider mercy petition.
Even if a person assassinates a Prime Minister, that person deserves some mercy.
So I think it should also depend on the kind of conduct that he displayed in the years in prison and on the assessment of the officers concerned.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Siddharth,
Yes, sir.
you belong to Kerala.
Yes, sir.
You're an architect.
Yes, sir.
I was reading you've been fond of cricket.
Yes, sir.
So, any top cricketers Kerala has produced for India?
So presently we have Sanju Samson, who is also the captain of Rajasthan Royals.
Yeah.
Earlier we had Srishant, Tinu Yohanan.
What was that controversy? One of the cricketers from Kerala got into controversy also. What was his name?
Srishant, S. Srishant.
Oh, he was banned for some time.
Yes, sir.
But this is a major problem, fixing in cricket.
Yes, sir.
What do you feel? Have you been able to rid cricket of this problem or not?
So, in my limited understanding, I believe fixing there have been some reforms taking place, and at present, I think fixing is difficult. And I think there is also distinction between spot fixing and match fixing. I think spot fixing is easier and is more difficult to monitor, whereas match fixing is extremely difficult. And I think only very few instances like
What is spot fixing?
a particular incident like a ball being bowled, a wide or a no ball. Whereas a match fixing is like you decide whether the match can be won, lost. So the Africa, Hansi Kronia and some players were involved in match fixing, whereas Srishant and others were involved in spot fixing.
Why Supreme Court intervened into the affairs of BCCI, Board of Cricket Control?
So my understanding is limited. If I can,
Yes.
yes. So I believe Supreme Court had to intervene because the matter involved a lot of public money, public trust, and it also involved a sense of propriety which was concerned. So it was taken to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court had to install a committee to clean up the system.
Who were the members of that committee?
So I think the Lodha committee was set up. I do not remember the members.
Was the famous Auditor General who created a sensation.
So I think you're referring to Vinod Rai, Shri Vinod Rai.
He's also a member of that committee,
Yes, sir, yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
But the committee in India, they say once a committee is formed, it never gets wound up. What do you say on this?
Sir, I don't have much information on that.
Well, cricket, what role did you play in cricket, as a batsman or a spinner or a bowler?
Sir, I was an opening batsman, right arm opening batsman, and I led the school and college team, and I was a part-time off-spin bowler.
Why do you think now the Indian youth is totally obsessed with cricketing? Is it good for India? Why the other games? And some say the other games are suffering at the cost of cricket. What
Sir,
do you say?
Sir, I think on the one hand, cricket is prospering. We have a good base. We are already performing well. We have a good historical record. And that is one of the good reasons why youth are also obsessed. And on the other hand, I believe that the other sports are also coming up because we have the Indian ISL for football. We have the badminton league. We have the kabaddi league. All of this is
what has been the main contributory factor in encouraging the sports in India?
Yes, sir. So cricket in particular,
or in general? Now there has been a big upsurge in.
So I think personally, I believe the pride that is attached, the national pride that is attached.
Pride was always attached, but it's the money that is.
Money is also there. Yes.
How has the money come?
So we have sponsors, we have more investments, private investment.
Yes, but they don't. But ordinary Indian feels that cricketers have too much of money, and that's too much, like a vulgar, too much. Thousands of crores people make it. Do you think it's good for the country in the long run, or create more this sort of inequalities of the severe kind, or can create more problems?
Sir, I personally believe if there is investments and if we have a free market economy, so there should be freedom.
Okay, now coming to Sri Lanka, yes. What are the latest problems, the internal problems Sri Lanka is facing, and why?
So in my understanding, there was an organic farming which was promoted, and we had which led to some other crisis, and now at present they are facing an economic crisis. They are facing external BOP crisis, balance of payment crisis. They are also facing fuel inflation. They are facing high levels of poverty, hunger, and we've had people from Sri Lanka coming to India as well.
But once upon a time, it was called a tiger economy. Why were these countries called tiger economies?
So I'm not very sure.
You have heard of that?
Yes.
Because it was doing so well. The tiger economies, they were called tiger because they were doing much better, and Indians used to feel that we haven't done well. But what is this organic farming they had done?
So they tried to brand the whole country of Sri Lanka with organic farming, and I believe that happened at a point of time when it proved to be counterproductive, because they had to import Chinese fertilizers according to some reports, which again had some issues. And at the same time, the COVID also happened, so the tourism impacted. So the branding of organic farming also did not reap much benefits. And this also led to further crisis in terms of the exports let down, tourism got impacted because of COVID. So,
tell me, something is happening in Maldives also. It's been in news. Maldives. What are India's interests in Maldives?
Yes, sir. So India's interests in Maldives include, firstly, we have the neighborhood first policy. So Maldives is crucial and critical to our neighborhood first policy. And secondly, it is crucial to the Indian Ocean at large. Even though a neighborhood is important, Indian Ocean is at the heart of the neighborhood. And we have maritime security that is also very important. And thirdly, we also have the factor of Chinese influence in the neighborhood. So we are trying to balance our relations with the neighbors at a faster pace so that we can ensure national security and territorial integrity of India also.
All right, sir.
Siddharth,
Yes, sir.
you are from Cochin.
Yes, sir.
Why Cochin is getting flooded?
So, in my understanding, Cochin has it is near the sea level. The sea level elevation is low, and secondly, the kind of planning, the kind of development that is taking place in Cochin is also one of the reasons why flooding is having more impact. Because even the Marada demolition that happened in the last 2 years, that also happened in Cochin. So the development mostly happens in watershed plains, in the river plains. So that increases the negative consequences of flooding.
Have you traveled to Munnar?
Yes, sir.
If you travel to Cochin to Munnar,
Yes, sir.
what will be witnessing both sides of your road journey?
So we'll have cliffs, we'll have elevated rear roads going through the
And you will not be seeing the tea garden.
tea gardens. Yes, sir.
And you don't feel that the whole Western Ghat forest has been converted to tea garden and reduces the water retentivity?
Yes, sir. That is one of the major issues for flooding and things. In fact, the Madhav Gadgil committee report also flagged this particular issue.
So what is the difference between Madhav Gadgil committee report and Kasturi Rangam committee report on Western Ghat?
So, from what I remember at present, the area that was included as ecologically sensitive area is around 60 to more than 60% in Madhav Gadgil report, whereas it is nearly 30 to 40% in the Kasturi Rangan report.
In your paper, DAF, you have mentioned that you are in the leadership position of socio-economic study group lead in rural settlement study.
Yes, sir.
What was that?
So, every semester we have a particular project. So, we start with a residential project, and then we move on to apartment. So, in that particular semester, we had a rural settlement study scale level project. So, we selected Maturu village in Karnataka. It is actually famous because it is the only it is reported to be the only Sanskrit speaking village in India.
Very good. Now, you tell us, in some of the sector, Kerala is in leading position among the states.
Yes, sir.
Please tell us some of the sector.
So, Kerala is leading in particularly in the social sectors like education, health, even in terms of remittances. Kerala is in the front place.
And what is Kerala position in achieving sustainable development goal indicators?
Sir, according to the Niti Aayog indices, it is in the top 3. I am not sure if it is number 1. I believe it is.
Have you heard about Kudumbashree?
Yes, sir. Kudumbashree.
And what makes Kudumbashree unique in India?
So Kudumbashree is a unique initiative because it bangs on the collective bargaining power of the women. It has a lot of initiatives. So they are involved in they are involved in becoming self-help groups. They lend to other sectors. They are involved in the welfare schemes. And in fact, 1 in every 3 women in Kerala is part of some Kudumbashree unit.
What is the role of Panchayat
Yes.
in making Kudumbashree successful? What is connection between Panchayat, particularly the Gram Panchayat, and Kudumbashree, which is helping each other, when Gram Panchayat also and Kudumbashree also? Have you heard about Gram Panchayat?
Yes, sir.
How is they are performing in Kerala?
So it is performing very well.
And Kudumbashree also performing
Kudumbashree
very
is
well.
also performing.
What is connect between these two?
So I think local level participation is very high in both.
Good. Now coming to Indian position, what is your view about Indian economic condition?
So at today, I think at present, I think Indian economic condition is on the on a positive note. We had some issues due to COVID where we had about 20-24% contraction in a particular quarter. But at present, we are improving. Even the exports increased to about $400 billion. So I think we are on a positive note in the economic side also.
And what do you feel about India managing COVID?
So I think it was an unprecedented situation. So it is, we had both learnings and some successes. So I think on the overall, we did a good job in managing COVID.
What are the achievement of COP26?
So for overall
Climate change?
Yes, sir. So COP26 decided on the rule book, which was started in Telenova last time. Then COP26 also had a lot of other initiatives like the Global Methane Pledge. Then we had the Deforestation Pledge by 2030. Then we also had certain other initiatives. I'm not able to.
What was the announcement made by Honorable Prime Minister of India on Panchamrit
Yes, sir.
during the COP?
Yes, sir. So the Honorable Prime Minister had devised a strategy of Panchamrit, which included one, that we will be net zero by 2070. Secondly, that we'll have about 500 gigawatt renewable energy target by 2030. And thirdly, additional carbon sink of about 1 to 2 billion tons by 2030. And there were two more. I'm not able to recall it.
But do you think that we will be able to achieve? What are the indicators which convince you that India can achieve this target announced by Honorable Prime Minister?
So I think it is very much achievable because in fact we had a target of 100 gigawatt earlier, which was surpassed to 175. Even 175 gigawatt target was like we achieved the target before the time. So it is possible, and it depends on the policy level, implementation level successes. I believe it is possible.
What are the recent developments regarding single-use plastic?
Sir, there have been bans on single-use plastics beyond 50 mm thickness that has been implemented in states.
Anything related with 1st July? Any important development likely to take place?
Sir, I am not able to recall. I'll read about it.
What is coherence among the SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, climate change, and Sendai framework on disaster risk reduction?
So I think all three form a feedback loop wherein improvement in one will impact the improvement in the other. For example, if we improve on the disaster resilient framework targets that are enumerated in the Sendai framework, we'll have improvements in the SDG, and if we have improvements in the SDG, we'll directly have improvements in the climate change targets also. So it is a positive feedback loop.
Given the situation of the COVID,
Yes, sir.
In impact,
Yes, sir.
do you think that we will be able to achieve SDG by 2030?
So I think the COVID has necessitated a different kind of strategy possibly to achieve the 2030 targets. I don't believe it is impossible, but I think possibly we'll need to explore new ways of achieving the SDG targets. Maybe faster transition to desulfurization technology in all coal plants. Maybe faster transition to solar. I think it is possible. It depends on the pathways that we take.
What is the impact of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana?
So I think it is an important scheme on the part of the state to ensure that the people, the masses, have food security. So today it has been extended for another 6 months. I think it is part of the duty of a welfare state to protect.
Have you heard about Kila, an institute in Kerala?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
Sorry, sir, I am not able to understand.
Kila is Kerala Institute
Yes,
of
sir, local administration. Yes, sir.
What are their achievements, and what is their contribution in self-governance in Kerala?
So Kila is an important institution in capacity building in the state of Kerala. So Kerala is a front runner in local governance because we have we have financial delegation. So about 1/3 of the state finances are delegated to the local bodies. And secondly, the organizational structure of the local bodies is also very strong. In fact, after the floods of 2018 and 19, the Kila was in front for training the local disaster management committees of the panchayats. So Kila has been.
My last question to you.
Yes, sir.
You are already in Group A survey.
Yes, sir.
Why you want to join other services?
Yes, sir. Sir, I believe I am more fascinated with a service that has more public participation, more direct on-ground action.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.